Jones was born in Penrhiwtyn Hospital in Neath in 1941. He lived for the first 12 years of his life in a small village of Godrergraig, about 12 miles from Swansea, between the very industrial Penrhiwtyn Valley and the Brecon Beacons. So he had the influence from the time he was born of industrial workers, women who worked in the home, and farmers, because he was surrounded by farm land. Mike's father was a collier until he had an accident with his leg, and then he became landlord of a public house in Godrergraig, which gave Mike another aspect of village life. Men at the bar, men coming in after the shift, men going to work early in the morning. And he had an idyllic childhood. He liked fishing, walking, he loved nature. But when he was 9, he had a devastating accident and lost his right eye. It was an accident, a boy's playing, and he had an arrow in his eye. Lost his eye and went to hospital, and lost quite a bit of schooling then because of the accident. But while he was in hospital, one of the surgeons suggested he take up drawing, partly for confidence really, but partly to get him used to the perspective of being monocular and that kind of thing. And that was his start to his art career. He'd seen huge paintings by Joseph Herman, and they were of miners, startling pictures of about 6 miners kneeling, and it really influenced Mike. He'd never seen miners like that before. He was used to seeing miners going to work, but he'd never seen them with such majesty, I think. I think that would be the word. And that really influenced him. And from this time on, he always liked art, and he was influenced very strongly by Russian artists, actually. He loved Bernard Beninsky, Pamik, people who painted really powerful, strong characters. However, Mike wasn't painting like that at the time. When he worked in Llew Valley Borough Council, he was asked by mayors to do Christmas cards, and they wanted very, very detailed paintings. Paintings of the local church or the local chapel or local buildings of interest, local scenes. And he did wonderful, very tight drawings, and people loved them, and they were really fascinating. He painted every leaf, every pebble. They were really wonderful, and he did that for quite a long time, and he became quite well known for that in the village. And in the early 80s, I remember he went to a workshop in Penrhiwtyn, and the artist leading the workshop was John Edwards. And John Edwards and also Megan Jones, they had a huge influence on Mike at that time. And that's when he began to paint more freely. And I remember him telling me, gosh, it's quite different. When you paint very tightly, he was using his hand. But when he was painting down in the workshop with John Edwards, he was using his arm. And he just released a lot of things that were in him. It was absolutely fabulous to see. And his paintings became much freer, much freer. Yes, and from that time on, he got more confident. Not that he wasn't confident before, but he became more confident in his, he never painted anything pretty, he didn't like pretty things, but he was so much more expressive after that. And he put on a small exhibition in the library in Godrergraig. They'd asked him to put on some paintings, and he had a phone call from Will Roberts, somebody he admired very, very much, a painter from Neath. And Will Roberts rang him, and he was so kind. He gave him a critique on every painting in this exhibition in Godrergraig. And Mike was fascinated by what Will was saying, and he wrote it all down. And I remember one of the things he said about two of his paintings actually, they're on the wall actually up there. And Will said, "That's not you." But he saw, "Don't go down that road," he said, "that's not you," which was a little bit abstract it was. But one of the paintings particularly he liked of Craigano's Castle. And he said to Mike, "I think that's John Piper at his best," which was a wonderful thing to have from Will. He ended up with exhibitions all over Wales. And also somebody visited from Stow-on-the-Wold, the Cotswolds, and put on a Welsh exhibition of several Welsh artists, and she particularly liked Mike's work, and he still shows there. When we bought this little house, the first thing we did was convert the attic room into a studio, and it turned out to be very, very successful. He didn't have a routine of painting. Mike painted when the mood took him. But because it was indoors, in the attic, upstairs, easy to access, he could pop up whenever he felt like it and paint when the mood took him. He was very interested in using lots of different he never painted with a palette knife, I remember, but he used brushes, sticks, he used graphite, pencil, oils, crayon. I know one thing I found last week, I wondered what they were, because I was looking through the drawers. It looked like toothpaste to me, but I don't think it was toothpaste. I think it must have been some kind of a gum. Anyway, his style changed according to people we'd meet, places we'd been, like everybody else. His style was immediate. He didn't have any extraneous detail in his paintings anymore. Quite opposite to how he began painting. What I thought about Mike's work was, and a lot of people did, he had such natural talent. With one line, he could evoke emotion in a person looking at his paintings just by drawing. I thought, how does he know what that woman's feeling? You knew what the person was feeling. A woman scrubbing the step, or putting clothes on the line, or just sitting, thinking. Or men just thinking, looking, a farmer at a gate. And sometimes he used to tell me, "Would you go and sit over there so I can sketch those people, not, you know, not for them to be embarrassed. I'm not looking at them, I'm looking at you." Wherever we were, particularly liked going to cattle marts and doing farmers. But farming changed over the years, and I can remember Mike saying, "Oh, they no longer wear their flat caps. They're all wearing baseball caps. They weren't the same." So actually, he was really, I wouldn't call him a recorder of times, but he did record what he saw and what he remembered. He didn't think of his work as being, he used the word angst sometimes, full of angst, my work, but it wasn't sorrowful, and it wasn't full of hiraeth, as some people would say, "Oh, it's full of longing." No, it wasn't that, it was just what he remembered. But it was full of emotion. Towards the end of his life, when he had cancer, he still worked right until he was 80, and he had 5 exhibitions when he was 80, which was an enormous amount of work, but he so enjoyed the work, he loved it. The attic studio was his pleasure, that's where he liked to paint. The figurative work became very popular with him, especially after meeting Herman, and he changed really. I mean, he could paint figures in a room, a lot of figures together, but actually each one had their own individual space. That's how it looked. He had a knack of painting women, particularly. Yes, I did wonder. He did have a knack of painting women. You could see women's, I don't know, their thoughts, their feelings. How he did it, I don't know. Mike became a very popular artist and showed all over Wales and in England. He showed in London. He was collected by people all over the world. His paintings have gone to America, New Zealand, Australia. His paintings have been collected privately in private collections, and in the National Library have bought his paintings. I think Mike was not a talking painter, and I can remember he and Will Roberts once said they weren't talking painters, they let the art speak for them. I think he tried to convey in his work his love for where he came from, for the Welsh people, the Welsh culture particularly. He was a Welsh speaker. He was a director for the Joseph Herman Foundation. He was shown in the Royal Academy in 2015. One of the books I intend writing is about Mike's life, but more about his work, about the variety of work he did and how it changed over the years and what influenced him. And then another book that I really would like, because I taught special needs, I do want to write a book about visual disability and how Mike overcame that disability in a fantastic way. Some of Mike's favourite work were pictures he did after reading. He was an avid reader, Mike, he loved reading. And he'd read a book of short stories by Dylan Thomas called The Holy Six. And he was in the studio for a long time doing these wonderful drawings, and I think they were his favourite work. In fact, Peter Lord said he thought it were the best things that Mike had ever done. Mike was a very kind person. He was but he remembered something Joe always said to him, that Lady Luck played a part in success. So yes, he was a real gentleman, and I think he tried to promote that in other people. He tried to evoke emotion in whatever paintings and drawings he did. It was a privilege to know Mike, and it was a joy to be married to Mike. I loved his work. Mike passed away in January 2022 after a long and happy life doing what he liked best. He loved art, and he's left us with a legacy of wonderful art to enjoy.